Okay, welcome to my channel. Today we're going to be discussing what is Section 8 housing and how do I apply. If you're new to the channel, this will be a valuable video for you because out of all the channels that make videos on YouTube, I have the largest library of videos, and that also includes a website that covers all of these resources in fine detail. I don't do tips and tricks, okay? What I do provide are the actual Hud manuals, the employee manuals, operation manuals. If they know it, you get to know it, okay? First and foremost, Section 8 is that term that they use for Section 8 housing is an old term. They now call it the Housing Choice Voucher Program, okay? So it just means that you're going down to HUD or a housing authority, you're applying, and depending on what you put on your application will depend on whether or not you get on the list to get a voucher. And on that list, depending on your answers, will depend on how high or how low you will be on that list and eventually get that voucher, okay? Once you get the voucher, you have a couple of different options, okay? You can get housing through private landlords. You can get housing through businesses that operate as apartment complexes that offer low-income housing. And then your third and final option would be state-owned housing, which is also known as project housing. That's why some places call it the projects, or better known as public housing, okay? What's the difference between all of them? Well, if a landlord's going to lease you a property, privately, a home, or a little small duplex or apartment, it's probably the best situation you can get. Second to that, if it's a business like an apartment complex that reserves a percentage of their units to lease to you, that's usually your second best option. The public housing end of this, where it's owned by the state, owned by the HUD, or owned by the housing authority itself, is usually it's a mixed deal, okay? First of all, because it is owned by the housing authority or HUD, it means that the rent is already exceptionally low, and then you combine that with having the voucher, and that's how you end up with people with $20 or $100 rent, okay? But there's a setback to this. We all know what projects are. Some of those projects have gone terribly wrong in places like New York and Chicago. Mainly because you get a lot of bad elements that are in there that may be drug dealers, drug users. There's a lot of violence and other things that can go on. There's also a lot of public housing that's really good and that it's new and that it's well regulated, okay? So I don't want you to be discouraged from turning away the public housing option, okay? So, the applying process. First thing you need to understand is there's several different scenarios of HUD housing and getting this voucher, okay? So you have HUD that gives the grants and funds and money to housing authorities, okay? The housing authority for your city and or state is a private entity, okay? It's not actually HUD, they're private, okay, in most cases. So you either go to a real HUD location in your city or you go to a private housing authority. Look guys, those private housing authorities, they can do whatever the hell they want, okay? So I'm just warning you right now, if things go badly with that or you never get selected on a list, they can discriminate against anything. Your income, the color of your skin, whatever they want to do. They're not heavily regulated, okay? So make sure that when you're going to deal with a housing authority, that it's somebody that falls under HUD, or it's HUD itself, that you're actually going to a HUD office, okay? Once you do that, then what will happen is you get on the list, and then so the list, if you have a physical disability, a mental disability, a drug disability, if you are a senior, if you are disabled as a handicap, if you are a student, there are opportunities for you to climb the list. And also, if you're homeless, you'll likely get at the very top of the list, okay? The second factor they normally look at is your income, okay? So they consider low-income housing that if you get a pay, let's just say you make $30,000 a year, okay? $10,000 of that you're spending on rent, so that would be 30%. That would put you in the bottom 30% of the list, okay? If you're spending half your rent, so you're making $40,000 a year, but you spend $20,000 on rent, half of your money or 50%, then you would be somewhere in the middle of the list. And for those of you that have real low income jobs, say you're making $20,000 a year and you're spending 80% of that money on rent, then you'll probably be near the top, okay? And that's not, now once you get to that top third percent, the top third of the list, Then they start dividing up the real estate based on disability or age, whether you're a student, and all those different things that can put you much higher, okay? So let's get to the most important part, okay? If you look in the description or you look in the comment section, you will find a link to my website. It is a plain white website that you see right now. Once you land there, it only has 3 pages, okay? And those pages have links. All of my links are to .federal, .gov, .state, .county, okay? I don't put any bad links. I don't include any websites that are informational. They have to be federal, state, or city, okay? If you look on the first page, the main page, you will see that here are the HUD manuals, here are the COC manuals, here are the HCV, Housing Choice Voucher manuals, here are the HUD flow charts. That's just a taste of it, okay? So if you were to go and apply at HUD and you're wondering how these people train, why are you being put on a certain part of the list, these manuals tell you exactly how. Whether or not you use that information ethically is your business, or if you want to be honest, that's your business too, okay? But your answers will determine where you get on the list. How long it takes depends on the availability of how much housing there is out there. Believe it or not, with Section 8 housing, there's also a list, a secondary list, a private list, kept specifically for people, and this is year-round, so you can walk into HUD office year-round for an emergency one, but very few make the cut on that, okay? So they keep that private list for people with extraordinary disabilities that may not be able to survive without medical breathing equipment and stuff like that, or they have severe forms of mental retardation, stuff that where they have to have a care worker with them and stuff like that, okay? Now, the rules are much more relaxed when you're not in the middle of a virus and pandemic, which we're currently going through and have been since, January, February, March till up to this point, and it's the July, okay? So if you're watching this video and it's, later 2020, then it may not be a big problem. So if it was during normal times, I would say that you would have a reasonable chance of walking into HUD and getting an emergency voucher on that secret list, basically, that they keep hidden year-round, with high-level disabilities and not extraordinary, okay? So there's no silver bullet when it comes to getting quick Section 8. It depends on how much is available, how high you're going to rank, how quickly you can get through the list, and how much, how many houses are actually available out there for you. If you're homeless, you really need to be focused on your Continuum of Care manuals. The Continuum of Care is funded by the federal government and HUD, and what it does is it creates the same housing, except it deals with people that are spending 80% of their income, or they're homeless, or about to be homeless, or imminently homeless, and then their process is about 30 to 60 days, and you have the same typical housing options you would, except there's no voucher. They just give you the availability, and then if it's open, you go rent it. That's if the landlord agrees to having you. And one thing that's going to affect you, whether you use a COC or a HUD, is going to be some answers that you give. If you're a domestic violence victim, or if you're a drug user that uses illegal drugs like cocaine, methamphetamines. I don't mean abusing prescription medications that are legal, but I mean illegal substances. If you're a sex offender, you will find it's particularly hard to get housing through either program, okay? So let me check the time and make sure we're not going over, but I wanted a clear explanation for you guys that are out here searching on YouTube for Section 8. There are nefarious people on YouTube that are trying to sell information. They don't even have manuals, okay? They want to sell it to you. You have other people that have good intentions, but the problem is the information they're going to give you is going to be based on their experience with a housing authority that's specific to their city and their town, and so the advice that they're trying to give you is going to be completely useless, okay? Unless you live down the street from them. That's why a lot of these videos are going to send you chasing your tail around town. The other thing I'm going to tell you is, look, let's go over to the HUD manuals, okay? Here's the golden egg or the golden goose for all this stuff. It's 24 chapters, over 460 pages. The chapters you want to focus your attention on, okay? This is how one ring rules them all, like in Lord of the Rings, okay? So if you want to know what manual rules all housing authorities, it's going to be these, okay? If you look at Chapter 4 and Chapter 5, waiting list and tenant selection, eligibility, and denial of assistance, these two particular chapters will tell you everything you could have ever imagined about their process and how you could potentially use it to your advantage to get higher on the list, okay? Also, I want to tell you guys, I do have an email available. For those of you that have private situations, don't want to discuss all of your business out in public, you're always welcome to email me. Please don't abuse that. Please don't email me repeatedly. And the last thing I want to say is, if you're unwilling to watch the videos and you think that just by shooting me an email or comment real quick because you're that lazy that you don't even want to help yourself, don't expect me to help you, okay? I'm only here to help people because they want the help. And the other thing I want to tell you is, I don't get anything from this. I don't benefit from this other than when you guys click an ad or something, I get a couple of pennies here and there. Okay, so I'm out here doing this because I care and I want to see as many people as possible off the street. The only way to do that is to get past all these videos that are given all this information that's completely useless, okay? You're either reading the official manuals or you're not, okay? So I hope that's helped you guys, and I wish you a great, great day, okay? Bye-bye.